Hi, everybody. I'm here with Tim from G Adventures, and we thought we'd take a little bit of time today to just tell you about why traveling with G Adventures is important and a little bit about the Thailand trip. So right now I'm going to let Tim introduce himself and G Adventures.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, thanks. This is super fun. I don't get to do this kind of thing very often, so happy to grab a few minutes and chat a little bit about what makes us special. I've been with G Adventures for a little less than 10 years now, worn a lot of hats over the years, and yeah, and it's just something that's super near and dear to my heart, and so happy to share a little bit about what makes us special. And so, if you've never heard of G Adventures, we like to say, the world's largest small group adventure travel company. But we take an entirely different approach in the way that we travel and the way that we interact with the destination. So when we set up a tour or design an itinerary, for us, it's not just about setting up the best trip, right? It's really about involving the local communities that we interact with in that conversation, right? It's not just how can we make the best use of our time here, but it's also how can we interact with the place in a way that positively impacts it. One of the things that really makes us special is we're very conscious of where our dollars go, right? When you travel to a place, you're interacting it with every decision that you make, where you eat, what souvenirs you buy, all those different things. And so for us, we bake that right into our itineraries. We stay in locally owned hotels and accommodation providers. We want to eat in locally owned restaurants. Even for little local excursions and transportation, quite often we'll invest in and help develop small locally run businesses that benefit local families and local communities. And so it's a really holistic approach to travel, and certainly my favorite way to experience a destination, especially one that's sort of far flung and maybe a little bit exotic, like a place like Thailand. And so um, when you travel with us, we want you to feel that you're not just going on this trip to have an incredible time and sort of experience a lovely trip, but also know that you're positively impacting and making a difference to everybody that you meet along the way. And the idea there as well is that when you travel in that way and when you approach a destination with that mentality, just the people that you meet and the way that you interact with the place is so much more impactful, just because they know that you've decided to travel in this way with their benefit in mind and that kind of thing. And so it really is a fantastic give and take, and just a fantastic way to connect with a place.
Well, and that's super important, for us with this trip, because part of our trip, I know we've talked about the fact that we'll be volunteering at the second week of this trip. So after the tour portion, we're actually spending some time volunteering. And part of what Joyous Journeys does is tries to connect people in ways that are a little bit unique and different, including things like making sure their tourism dollars are going to the places that they are visiting and that they're having a positive impact with their tourism. So it's really great to be partnering with you guys on this, because we know that that's important to you guys as well. And also, do you want to touch on a little bit like the difference, because this is actually a National Geographic journey, so what makes that special or unique?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really important part to touch on about this trip as well. So we operate a ton of different tours at G Adventures. There's about 650 different options that we operate in almost 100 countries, but about 100 of those are in partnership with National Geographic, right? The global iconic brand that everybody's super familiar with. And we've been working with National Geographic for about 8 years now. And the idea was, we wanted a way that we could partner that added to the offerings for both of our organizations, right? And so National Geographic actually reached out to us to formalize this partnership. And they said, hey, we're really looking for an option that goes a little bit further than some of our more luxury travel options, right? Because they've operated trips for years, but there's some limitations when you have to be staying at the Four Seasons everywhere, right? And so for us, it was an opportunity to kind of design that four-star option that was a lot more comfortable and focused on going at a little bit of a slower pace and private transportation and more inclusions and nicer accommodations and things like that. But it also opened up travel to a lot of destinations that you can't do it in an ultra luxury way. And so if you compare this to, you know, a lot of other options, you know, we're going to be, like I said, in private transportation. We've got flights up and back to Chiang Mai. And so, you know, that's something that is kind of unique for us. Sometimes folks will take the train, which is, you know, obviously a super unique and adventurous experience, but not necessarily for everybody. But it's about finding that balance, right? The safety and security and comfort that you get from an organized group. But still going out of our way to experience those really unique little cultural and historical interactions that you get when you have access to National Geographic's content and learning and personnel on the ground. And so, you know, that's the case with all of our partnered tours, but it definitely shines through on this trip as well, just with some of those really unique little interactions. And obviously, you know, Jennifer, I'm sure that you've shared this itinerary with everybody, but if you look down, right, you can see kind of highlighted those experiences that you really only get on these National Geographic Journeys trips. You know, so we'll go and do a full market visit up in Chiang Mai, where you actually go with a local expert and pick out all of your ingredients and then sit down and cook it and enjoy that meal for lunch. Also outside of Chiang Mai, we go and visit an historic Buddhist temple where they actually still have a working community of monks that live there, and you actually get to sit down and interact with these monks. And so obviously you have these conversations with these folks, and you get to learn about, you know, what their life is like and what their teachings and all of that. And so it's an incredible cultural experience for us as travelers. But on the other side, they get to practice their English, right, which is an important part of their development. And so it really is a super unique give and take that we involve all that cultural interaction, right? I mean, for us, really, it's about the people, right? I mean, you know, there's incredible vistas and wildlife and history and all kinds of things that you can see. But if you travel to a place and don't take time to meet and interact with the locals, then really just something is missing and left on the table there. And that's a huge part of what our partnership with National Geographic helps us do, right? It's about bringing more people into this approach and this style of travel, kind of at that a little bit more elevated and comfort focused style.
Cool. So I know you mentioned the market and the lunch, and then the the Buddhist temple where we actually sit and chat with Buddhist monks. What are there any other things that are unique to this trip on the itinerary that you want to point out?
Well, I mean, it's just a really nice balance as well. I mean, obviously, right, all those things we talked about. When you go to a place, right, I think a lot of folks are interested in the natural environment, right? So you've got your national park visit there, where you get to kind of, you know, be out and about in the great outdoors and experience some of that. Really fantastic historical content, kind of a whole day dedicated to some of the 20th century history there, right? So you go to the bridge over the River Kwai and kind of get a sense of what wartime was like there in Thailand, which is fascinating for us as Westerners. And then I really like also, you know, another sort of cultural and culinary element to this trip. We actually go and visit a traditional Thai home, right? A local family that we've partnered with, or a handful, depending on who's cooking that day. But we actually go and get served a meal in somebody's house as well. And so, you know, you can read down the itinerary and see all of these fantastic inclusions and experience, but overall, what I really like is that it's a fantastic balance, right? You spend some time in the great outdoors, you've got a ton of history, and then obviously that cultural interaction, meeting people, and the culinary element as well, right? With your market visit, cooking class, and that traditional Thai home dinner. And so, you know, in my mind, this is sort of a done up with a bow on it. I'm going to Thailand once in my life, and I don't want to miss anything trip. And you know, we make it pretty easy to kind of get out there and have this experience. And so, yeah, I mean, I think everybody's going to look at this trip and probably be a little bit more interested and attracted in one other thing, but it's a fantastic overall balance of focus while you're traveling.
Yeah, and it worked out perfectly because the volunteering runs from Sunday to Sunday. So the fact that the trip ends, you know, on that basically with the hotel in Bangkok on Sunday, Saturday night into Sunday morning, then it works out really perfectly into our volunteer time. So it's really great. And people can do so. Just as an aside from me, you know, obviously we would love for everyone that comes to be able to do both weeks, but just because they can't doesn't mean that, if you only have a week, come in and, get this great overview of Thailand with G Adventures to really get a feel for the culture. I feel like this is, I looked at a lot of different options for tours, and just the whole culture of G Adventures with the giving back and the connection with people, because our motto at Joyous Journeys is actually connecting, um, conne- connecting hands and hearts with love globally through travel. So
Love
I
that.
feel like, you know, the values and the people focus and the location focus that G Adventures has is a wonderful way to partner with what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super
Well,
excited
and
about this.
I'm super excited as well. And sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but
You're
you
fine.
missed on one thing that we haven't touched on as well, right? About sort of the tour element of this. And another thing that's great about everything that we do at G and especially our National Geographic itineraries as well is that, you know, if you've never really been the kind of person that's attracted to the idea of a tour, right, where you're traveling in a group with other folks, we're a fantastic option there. One, obviously, it's a super small group. I think we'll probably have somewhere in the vicinity of 12 or 15 people on this trip. And so it's a really small, intimate group. And if you look at the itinerary as well, we build in a lot of flexibility and the option to sort of choose your own experiences, right? It's not a super rigid schedule where every minute of our day is accounted for and we're just watching the clock, right? There's actually even a couple of days on this itinerary where you have a free afternoon, or like in Chiang Mai, an entire free day where our local tour leader, we call him the Chief Experience Officer, CEO, can help you arrange little optional activities. Or, you know, if you're the kind of person that wants to sort of sleep in or peel off from the group and do your own thing, you have that ability as well. And so it's a great option for folks who maybe have never considered an escorted group tour, just because, you know, we, again, kind of design our trips to be the anti-tour tour.
Yeah. It sounds, I'm really, like I said, really excited. So this will be my first time in Thailand. And so the fact that this tour gives me such a great overview, and then we get to go and you know, really immerse ourselves even more with the volunteerism. It's just, I'm super excited about this. And we, like Tim said, we do only have a maximum of 16 on this trip, is the most that it can be. And there are options for single rooms. It's a little bit higher price, but there are just a few options for single rooms. So if you don't want to share a room, then, you know, that's an option as well. Anything else? Any parting words before we hop off the call?
I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, the only thing I would say is, you know, if you've been waiting for a sign that it's time to travel, get out there and try something new, this is it. It's going to be a fantastic experience. I'm so excited for you, Jennifer, to be able to kind of help folks have this really special time. And I hope that folks will sign up and join you for an incredible adventure.
I'm super excited too. Thank you so much for your time today, Tim. We very much appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely.